As far as North American road courses go, there's plenty to choose from that have history dating back decades, plenty to choose from that have character, and plenty to choose from when it comes to a compelling track layout. But there's only one that can claim to be the biggest, baddest, and be in the running for being the most scenic. What started as a country drive in the early 1950s is now a 4-mile behemoth that blows through forests and fields. It's got tight corners, long straights, and is one of the best tracks in the world for spectating. Welcome to Road America, America's National Park of Speed, and the penultimate round of the 2024 Season 2 Full Send Sim Spec Miata Series. Hi everybody, I'm Kyle Heyer, joined tonight by Finian DeCuna in the absence of Greg Kramer. Finian, welcome aboard. There's just 2 rounds to go in the championship. It is compelling at the pointy end. Camden Hibbett, Morgan Burkhardt, just 9 points between them, and it's really just a 2-horse race as we enter these last 2 rounds.
Yeah, can't wait to see these guys get underway. Always really glad to cover these guys whenever I can because these guys put on fantastic racing. Always tight, always on edge, just constant battling up near the front and even the middle and even near the rear of the field all throughout this race, and especially here at Road America. The slipstream going to be extremely important down all the long straightaways around here.
14 corners around this 4-mile racetrack, and it all starts with a big run down the front straight, I guess up the front straightaway towards that first corner. Deceivingly quick. That's a 4th gear turn in an MX-5. Turn 2 is not really much to talk about at all. Surprised it even counts as a corner. Then into turn 3. That will lead you onto the back straightaway through what is considered turn 4. Into turn 5. That's really your best passing opportunity. And then it gets technical. Turn 6, 7, and 8. That is a challenging section they call the hurry downs. Then into the carousel around the 180-degree corner and into one of the most infamous corners in North America. That's called the kink. Flat out easy in these cars, but it can still catch you out on the opening lap. Then through the trees down to Canada Corner, up through Billy Mitchell Bend, and then around to the end, turn 14. That corner is where it's all going to get spicy at the very tail end. The last couple times we've been here, Finian, it came down to who could get a better exit out of turn 14.
Yeah, 14 catches out a lot of people. It's a fairly unremarkable corner, but it always ends up being a lot tighter than it actually seems it is. A lot of drivers make a mistake, and if you make a mistake in that final corner, you're going to lose a lot of speed down that front straightaway, up the hill, and back towards turn number 1.
And perhaps the big story coming into this evening's penultimate round of the championship is the weather. It was all beautiful in the B-roll, but have a look. Cloudy skies. It is cool outside, 69.7. But the track temp, 96 degrees Fahrenheit and 95% humidity. I mean, there's got to be pools of water collecting in the floorboards of these MX-5s right now.
Yeah, I'm sure these drivers wish they could take their fire suits off. They'd be sweating throughout this race. Of course, it's only 20 minutes, so not that long. But speaking of which, as the drivers, they're actually working their way up the hill to the start-finish line. They were on their first qualifying lap. They're just about to complete it. We're going to start seeing the time, see really who's the man to beat, at least as far as qualifying is concerned.
Yeah, this is a long lap here in the low 240s for these competitors, so it's going to take a long time. You're not going to get that many opportunities to run a quick lap here in this qualifying session, so you have to take full advantage of it. At the very pointy end immediately, though, it's Beans Forster who has gone to the top at a 242.415, but Morgan Burkhardt in the number 40. This is a driver we got to keep our eyes on. 9 points back from Camden Hibbett. He's a 3-time champion of this series, but Camden has been giving him a run for his money. They are teammates, but I imagine these next 2 rounds, Finney, and it's going to be hard-pressed to find them driving like it.
Oh, it's going to be all bets off, really. You know, when you're so close up near the top of the championship, you got to start making moves at this point in the season. You know, teammates kind of be thrown out the window at that point. It's going to be me, myself, and I, basically, for these last 2 rounds.
And the final round is at Sebring International Raceway, where we've seen some of the most competitive action in the championship. So I'd imagine that Camden and Morgan will be at the pointy end there, as they have been in seasons past. This one, though, has been a wild card, and it's caught up some drivers in collisions the last couple of times. This invites the chaos that you would anticipate seeing out of a drafting race. And while this field isn't enormous, it's under 30 cars, it's still not small, so it's going to be involving a handful of drivers that we typically would see up at the front. Olivier Piatek, he is like a little firecracker on the opening handful of laps, especially into turn 5, where he got caught up in a wreck a couple of times the last time we were here. So staying out of trouble, as always, Finian, that's the name of the game, but especially so at Road America, where it's so hard to catch back up.
Yeah, once you lose that slipstream, especially with the leaders, it's really hard to get back up there. You know, this track's designed for much bigger cars. Whoa, as he goes flying. Oh, wow. don't want to do that.
I think he was done with his qualifying effort if I had to take a guess. But here's Giancarlo Schooler working through the kink. We just talked about it in the intro. Pretty much easy flat in these cars, but it doesn't mean that you're going to avoid the trouble every time. If something goes wrong there's nowhere to go. You're coming in at high speed. It's kind of a blind entry. It's an infamous corner for many reasons.
Yeah, there's only small bits of grass on either side right before you hit the wall or get close to the wall. So there's not a whole lot of room for error there. And if you go off the track and trying to make a move on a driver, or there's a slow driver trying to work around, if you're just a little bit offline, you're putting a lot of weight on the left side of that car as you're rotating through there at full speed. So could see some drivers get caught out by there, make a mistake. Could see a collision, could see a wreck. And if there's a wreck there, that's going to pretty much mean the track's almost going to be blocked.
Yep, and what the most unrealistic part of this here in iRacing is that it's not littered with tire and impact spots on the walls on left and right. It is the walls in real life are black all the way down to that left kink that you see. They're just black from cars running into it, smashing into it, moving the barriers around. It is a rough and tumble area. Forster retains provisional pole for now. Morgan Burkhardt goes to second, Camden Hibbett in third. We just saw an engine expire, and the topic of discussion around the transmission has really been the thing since the beginning of this championship. You can't downshift even a smidge too early. The engine will not take it. And we've seen blown engines almost every single round we've run. Here, with the fast straightaway speeds and the slow cornering speeds, you have to make sure you're pacing yourself on those downshifts.
Yeah, absolutely. It does look like that engine expiration was due to a collision, which is also one way to blow the engine, but definitely when it comes to shifting, it's always that conversation, right? So many of the cars, especially in iRacing, now shifted to sequential transmission versus an H pattern. This is honestly one of the few cars that still is an H pattern on iRacing, so it requires a lot of finesse that you don't typically see or don't really necessarily need to learn in the higher level of cars. It's almost becoming somewhat of a forgotten art. If you can't nail it, you're going to damage your engine, you're going to blow that engine, you're going to be out of that race.
And you can get away without heel-toe downshifting here, but it's going to hurt you. It's going to throw your balance off going into the corner. This is one of those cars that really demands, the truth. 3 pedals driving. Your feet are almost always doing heel-toe if you're up at the pointy end here. So it's a great training tool, as Spec Miata is in the real world, but Spec Miata is also a place where some of the most intense grassroots racing competition can be found, as around goes Piatek out of 7. And a couple of drivers have yet to put down a time, including Andrew Gilliland in this number 91.
Yeah, I think he's just gone off a little bit wide in some corners, gotten that one off track here or there, and unfortunately he's going to start running out of time because we've only got just about under 5 minutes left in qualifying. I think as it stands, he'll have maybe another lap or two that he's able to get underneath him, but he's off on this lap. He's going to start running out of time. He needs to make sure he just keep it on the black stuff, or the gray stuff in this case, with the track the way it is, to get that lap in. And it looks like he's actually giving a bit of a tow to his teammate behind him.
I don't know that those two drivers are teammates.
They're not teammates. Similar looking cars, yes.
That's
from a distance I thought they were.
23 of Beans Forster behind him, and Beans will be running the same livery as Court Schmidt, owner of Full Send Sims, one of our primary sponsors, of course. We'll talk more about them a bit later in the evening, along with the other sponsors you see in the top right-hand corner of the screen, but Court P16 at the moment. Gilliland, though, through turn 14, is coming back around, and I think you're right. Only one more lap he's going to get, because with running the heat format here, multiple races in one session, you don't get the bleed over time once the checkered falls. So hopefully this time will count for something, and across the stripe for Gilliland, it is a 2:44.746, and that one did count, puts him 12th.
Yeah, he's probably going to want a little bit of a faster lap, but at least he's on the board and in the midfield, so he's got a banker lap he can try to push on this next lap, though he's fighting with the 23. That's going to slow him way up in turn 1. He's going to get almost a little bit off track. The 23, his lap is done.
Well, he's already on provisional pole, but only by 13 thousandths of a second, and Morgan Burkhardt is going to get one more lap, but he's up in the green already going into turn 1. He's got some traffic ahead, but Burkhardt would like to start out front and stay there. But this championship battle, Beans Forster, by the way, is 3rd in the championship. He's kind of far out of it to really be a real threat for the title, but, 1, 2, and 3 in the top 3 here in qualifying. That's a pretty good harbinger of things to come here.
Yeah, trying to look at anyone that's on a solid lap. Beans Forster is on a decent lap, but he went off the track, so he's not going to have anything. He's giving a tow to Gilliland as we look at Joshua Soto back in 7th place in the 77 car. He's also getting a slipstream from the 132 that's Camden Hibbett giving him a tow.
Yeah, Soto is 4th in the championship. Another driver too far out of it perhaps to really be a threat for the title, but battling Beans Forster for 3rd. And there are prizes on the line for our championship winners here this season, so you have to consider that as well, that there are, if he can get up one more spot in the running order, he'd be eligible for those. And then Nicholas Rice-Spudo, who I see is in 4th right now, he's in 5th in the championship. So everybody in the mix is in the top 10 right now here in qualifying. Far off track there, that's the 21.
Charles Bully.
I haven't seen Charles Boley here in a while. Good to have him back.
He's currently sitting in 15th and going to run out of time to get another lap in. There's some side-by-side action.
Ooh, into the kink too. Morgan Burkhardt's up green on his lap and squeezes to the inside of Court Schmidt, who'll run out to the rumbles. It costs Morgan a 10th or 2, but he's still flirting with going a 10th quicker, which would be enough to get him on pole.
And see, that's kind of chaos we're talking about when that can occur on the King, when you have drivers going side by side, especially during the race, near the end of the race. Neither driver going to want to give up. That could end up being spicy.
Yeah,
in the wrong way.
And there are some cars, I think, that your last passing opportunity is into turn 12. But in these cars, I think it's out of 14 is really your best opportunity to make a run to the end. You have to be in position to do that, though. And Morgan, a really exceptional run through turn 14. He throttled up early, turned down to the apex, but it doesn't look like it's going to be faster. Let's see. Up under the bridge. Burkhardt can go to the top.
And across the line for him.
And it was not quicker.
No, slower by about 0.2 of a second. So that's going to be all for him. Andrew Gill in his lap. It was faster, but not faster enough to gain him another spot. So he'll remain in 12th as it stands. Rich Green coming out of the final corner with just about enough time on the board.
It's going to be close. He's up 1.4 seconds, which would put him up another 2 or 3 spots with where he is in the running order out of the 25. He is going to get there. He'll be one of the last drivers to do so, and it is a 2:47.632, which will
not count because it was.
Dang. Well,
anticlimactic there.
I would say so, but what is about to get climactic is the racing here for the Full Send Sim Spec Miata series here from Road America. Big thanks to Court Schmidt and Full Send Sims. As they say, practice makes podium. Full sim rigs tailored for your construction. Whatever you need, Full Send Sims has got you. Of course, Final Turn Motorsports as well. Rob Greenwood's the owner of this company, full service prep shop and trackside support at your race weekends. Dyno Tuning, they build Miata transmissions, and they partner with the best in the Spec Miata category. And 3P Logistics and owner Frank Rodriguez, logistical support for you, your family, and your race car. They take care of booking flights, rental cars, hotels, and group gatherings while you're away from home with tailored trackside support, storage, maintenance, repair, and transportation of your race cars. Of course, Wine Country Motorsports, the racer's resource for helmets, suits, gloves, shoes, seats, and harnesses for over 30 years, and your one-stop shop for sim racing gear and Full Send Sims turnkey and custom simulators. We got the largest combined inventory of premium race gear brands in the country and the best customer service in the business. And of course, FARA, our new partner here for this season. We'll talk more about FARA a bit later this evening. Cars are gridding, and we got a full pace lap, which is going to give us plenty of time to run through the starting order. We haven't had that in the past, so we'll get at least a lap to do so. Track temperature still very warm, 98 degrees Fahrenheit, but that humidity is absolutely brutal. And look at the wind, 14 miles an hour out of the north. That's going to be a headwind heading down towards turn 5, but a tailwind into turn 1, Finian. So, man, we could see that be a big help to those trying to make passes.
Yeah, it's going to assist a lot for them to just get that little bit extra to make a move. And turn 1 can be tricky to make a move, and it just ends up being really awkward, and you can push some drivers out on the exit. There's no runoff on the exit like there is in real life. We still have basically just gravel and grass, so it can end up being a little bit sketchy, especially on the opening lap.
It's Camden Hibbett getting set to go racing here in a moment. And he'll roll off from 3rd on the grid. Andrew Gilliland, we watched earlier during qualifying. He was disappointed he didn't get to run his second clean lap, ended up only 12th in qualifying. We do have also Wan Shi Lin joining us. He will start a little bit, where did he end up in the running order? Just ahead of Gillen, P11, with that Formula style rim and the Logitech shifter. Quite the setup there, and he's belted in.
Yeah, I just look at that, I'm like, man, that looks so much more comfortable than the office chair I sit in to race.
You race in an office chair still?
Yeah, I don't have enough space for a sim.
Well,
like
explains
a proper,
why we
rig.
crashed in the 6 hours, doesn't it?
That was a skill issue. I don't think proper seating position would have really assisted in that.
Yeah, probably not. Anyway, let's run through our starting lineup here. Finian on the front row, it's Beans Forster. What an effort by him to put himself up on pole alongside the championship runner-up at the moment, Morgan Burkhardt.
And in third place, fine championship leader Camden Hibbett, lined up in the 132 in third. Next to him, Nicholas Resputo in the 03 in fourth.
And starting in row 3, it's John Carlos Schooler in the number 110. And right alongside him, Deacon Greenfield, a very strong qualifying effort for the number 20. He rolls off in 6th.
Cam Evans going to be lined up in the 155, 7th place. Next to him, Joshua Soto in the 77, lined up in 8th.
And in 9th place, it's Trace Hance in the number 53. Olivier Piatek, who had some bad luck here last time, looking to turn that around, starting from the outside of row 5.
Row 6 is going to be Wan Shi Lin in the 68 in 11th. Next to him, Andrew Gillen, lined up in the 91 in 12th.
Two of our camera cars in that 6th row. Dylan Lee in the number 200 will start in 13th place. And Dean Dibdahl starts 14th in the number 99.
Charles Bowley is going to line up in the 21 car in 15th. Evan Hamid. Went over this before.
Hamitman.
Oh, I was right. I was going to say it right. I second-guessed myself. Is lined up in the 372 in 16th.
And 17th place, it's Court Schmidt, owner of the Full Send Sim Series. He'll roll off P17 alongside Andrew Guetta in the number 61 in 18th place.
Joshua Clatterbuck's lined up in the 901 in 19th. Next to him, Greg Ginsberg lined up in the 7 in 20th.
And 21st place, Jim Friedhofer in the 89. Rich Green rolls off 22nd in the 22 car.
And then rounding out your final row of drivers in the number 73, Wayne Buttermore in the 23rd place, and in the 70, Al Deshkarmi in the 24th place spot.
Yep, and it looks like Hayden Manis did not make it to the grid, so he will not start this race. 24 cars getting set to go racing in the penultimate race around, I should say, of the season here for the Full Send Sim Spec Miata series. If you'd like to join it, make sure you check out Full Send Sim's website. Of course, practice makes podium. They've got a couple other notes to mention as far. Whoops, I paused the simulator by accident instead of closing my.
I got scared. I saw the feed pause for me as well. I was like, uh-oh.
By the way, the driver school sessions are now. My cat's in the way. I can't even read this because the cat is in front of the monitor. The driver school sessions are now called Racecraft Academy, and make sure we'll talk more about those later. But the Racecraft Academy helps you get prepared not only for Full Send Sim Spec Miata series, but also for real-world events coming up on the calendar, local to many of the drivers that are participating across the country in SCCA competition. Especially gearing up for Sebring in 1 week. That's something to consider. We'll talk more about that a little later tonight. Well, all that aside, it is about time to go racing at the National Park of Speed. This place is big, it is bad, but it is a great place to spectate. In sim or in the real world, if you haven't been, this is one you got to put on your calendar. It travels through different biomes. It's like an infinitely expanding game map every time you pop out of the trees. It is a beautiful place to go racing. It's unfortunate that all these drivers care none about that and all about what's out the windshield here for the next 20 minutes times 2. Two 20-minute races back-to-back, and Forster and Burkhardt will lead us to the green flag. Starters got that green in hand. And the Full Send Sim Spec Miata series here from Road America is green, and we're racing already 3 abreast as Camden Hibbett is on the loud pedal to the inside, Finian.
Poor start for Beans Forrester. He just did not get going. There's the 132 of Camden Hibbett. You mentioned making a move, and nose to tail, they line up on the outside heading to turn 1. This can get dicey.
It's going to get really dicey. Can you fit cars down there? Deacon Greenfield gets popped sideways, a little more contact, and up and over goes the 155 of Cam Evan, and into and over the fence. He is out of the race in the first corner in a big, big way, and Joshua Soto was one of the other cars involved in that. Deacon Greenfield is also out in the early stages. That was wild.
That's one of the worst wrecks I've ever seen in this car. That was horrible wreck for Eben. He's going to be out of it already in lap 1, turn 1. Meanwhile, up for the front, Morgan Burkhardt, Rasputo, Hibbett, Forrester, and Schoolers out there lined up in the top 5, and they're still not done yet. Still a battle for that 5th place spot.
Trace Hans up the inside here of Giancarlo Schoolers, 110, who can be later on the brakes. That little wreck kind of shuffled the field up a bit. They're not quite as on top of each other as they can be sometimes down here into turn 5. Look at Soto. He's in the middle, still trying to make way past Dylan Lee and Al Ducharme in the number 70.
Okay, he's made it past Ducharme, and it'll be Soto up to 21st place as the rest of the field's working through turns 6 and 7. Down towards turn 8 here, that a little bit of a rhythm section that these guys got to nail down. Deep on the brakes.
Morgan Burkhardt is off to a really strong start. He's one of the only drivers we've ever seen that can get out in front of one of these fields and drive away from the draft. So Rasputo knows what the mission is here. So does Camden Hibbett. Hibbett's got to keep Morgan Burkhardt in his sights. He doesn't want to leave here tied with Burkhardt. He would like to bury him a little further with the gap heading into Sebring, where Burkhardt has been so good.
Yeah, had a decent launch, but couldn't execute that move into turn 1. Otherwise, he would have probably been himself spun around, but still remaining in 3rd, although Burkhardt again from 2nd to 1st, and Rasputo from 4th to 2nd.
Forster down to P4. That's not the start he was looking for. He just got ganged up on the start. He wasn't really ready to go, and everyone leaped ahead of him. It seems like the fog is clearing out. The humidity is dropping, so that the track temperature is also coming down with it. That could change the way that these cars are racing, but still line astern here towards the tail end of lap number 1. Hibbett runs 3rd behind Rasputo and Burkhardt. But Rasputo is kind of the wild card here, split between the teammates and on a completely different strategy. He's not in a championship contending spot, at least not for the very pointy end, so he's going to be willing to do whatever it takes to get the lead away.
And up they will go through the hill for the first time, completing lap number 1. And we'll see, does anyone make a move near the front here? I would argue maybe a little bit too early. And we might see them remain in tow, but again, for someone like Kevin Hibbett, they may need to make some aggressive moves. There he goes, a look up the inside of the 03 Rasputo into turn 1.
Wasn't really expecting him to make that move, but down to the inside he goes, so he is trying to go get this. He's going to run Rasputo right out to the edge of the rumbles through turn 1. Not waiting around for anybody. Piatek out a little bit wide. Here comes Wan Shi Lin in the number 68, up 3 spots from where he started. All the while, let's go back and have a look at the collision at turn 1. And you see the 77, they're 4 wide for a moment. They just all come together. Kem Eben just tumbles up and over. He was out before he even left the park.
Yeah, I was going to say that was just a horrible, horrible wreck. And unfortunately for Greenfield, I got cut out. Qualified well up in 6th, but unfortunately got taken out early on. And man, it's crazy. I love to see the way the car just kind of grabbed the gravel. Of course, Eben didn't like seeing the car grab the gravel like that and just flip end over end.
Well, the physics are certainly working, but not in the favor of the drivers who go off sideways into a gravel trap, I'll tell you that. A little tip in there by Camden Hibbett. Rasputo's gotten 2nd place back while we were watching that replay. And all the while, how about Joshua Clatterbuck? Evan Hamitman trading spots. Hamitman a bit wide there at 6.
Yeah, I think he missed his braking point. He absolutely sent it into turn 5. Whoa, and a little bit of door banging with Clatterbuck going to send him out wide in turn 7. That's one way to get the pass done.
Rueda in the 61, trailing in behind. Now, turn 6 at the top of that hill, that is a deceiving corner. This is one of the few tracks that I've actually had the pleasure of driving in the real world, in a Spec Miata, by the way. And turn 6 is so deceiving. You come up over the top of that crest, and you get on the brakes, but all of a sudden, not that that car had any kind of downforce to speak of, but all the mechanical grip goes away as well, because you're basically coming up over a jump, and you're asking the car to brake and start turning. It doesn't want to do it. It's very easy to get yourself offline there. And look at Hibbett on the attack on Rasputo here down the back straightaway.
Yeah, he wants that spot back. I mean, he actually almost ended up getting passed by Forrester. He's now kind of caught back up. It's now from a 3 to a 4-way battle for the lead. As you look in behind, Piatek making a move back on Wan Shi Lin after he lost out 2 spots in turn 1 on this lap alone. So 1 spot back, trying to get back up to Gilliland, who actually has moved up quite a few spots from 12th to 7th in the 91 car.
He's having a pretty good start, and I think the pace that he has is much better than his qualifying. We saw it off screen. We didn't see it on the broadcast, but off screen, very frustrated with his qualifying effort, because I think he knows he's got more pace than that, and already up into 7th and looking to move further forward with the assistance of the draft. Nose to tail, though, between Burkhardt, Rasputo, and Hibbett as we begin lap 3 of 8.
Okay, can see more cars stacking up in behind them as well. A bigger pack is starting to form as some more attack is going to happen here. Rasputo now making the attack for the lead to the outside of Burkhardt into turn 1.
It's a hard line to hold out here, though. The next couple of corners are right-handers. And he's going to open the door for Hibbett, but Hibbett didn't get a great run. So look at Rasputo. He's going to pull even with Burkhardt into the braking zone for 3.
He's got a better run and arguably better line. Moving to the outside, gets the run off the corner. That's going to help him down towards turn 5 at the end of the straightaway. Here he goes. Just a little bit of a better run off the corner exit. Does Hibbett give a bump to Burkhardt? I think he will.
Yeah, teammates here, and you see the smile on his face. He knows exactly the devious smile.
Rasputo just jumped on the radio. He's like, "You're going to help your rival? What the heck?"
And here comes Forster passing the grass, tires in the dirt, 3 wide down into turn 5.
Oh, 3 wide for second as the 0-3. Rasputo has to go to the outside. He finds a lane to break and make the turn. That could end up in disaster.
That was fun to watch. There was cars everywhere down there into 5. Well, again, great passing opportunity, but you kind of reshuffle the deck here when you're going in that many cars wide. Look at Schooler and Hans side by side out of 6.
Getting feisty back here as Schooler's trying to work around the outside now into turn 7, and the 53 is just going to snake his way on by to secure that spot. But look, not too far behind. There's Gillen and Piatek right in behind.
Gillen kind of breaking in that line, right? As soon as your nose to tail opens up the opportunity for Piatek to try to stick his nose there, but not any space to work with that time through.
Almost looked like he was about to spin him out. He's that close on the back of the 91 car.
Got to be aggressive. This far back, you're still in danger of losing that main pack. You'd much rather be up there in front. See the slight bit of nose damage on that 91. Drivers reported after Road Atlanta that this new damage model adjustment, it's pretty sensitive, and with so much bump drafting going on today, you have to be cautious not to tear up your front end.
A valuable resource, so you definitely want to preserve your car. Don't want to give, you can, get up behind someone slowly and give them a bump, but you don't want to ram into the back of them to get them to go. And especially you're going to see a lot of that damage occur into the braking zones if you're not anticipating the driver in front of you slowing down early.
Rasputo's also collected that bit of nose damage, but Morgan Burkhardt has not. Will help that car be just the slightest bit more slippery. Trace Hans staying defensive there on Schooler, slightly coming up over the crest out of Billy Mitchell Bend. And up onto the front straightaway, 4 cars trying to break away. But as soon as they go side by side, Hans, Schooler, and Gilliland to close that right back up.
Yeah, effectively got a 9-car pack for the lead here, and arguably all of them have a shot at winning, depending on how things play out. They're just approaching the halfway point in this race when things start to get maybe a little bit too chaotic up in the front. Some of the guys near the rear of this pack have a decent shot.
Now working lap 4 of 8 now, and means Forster goes to the outside of Hibbett. It's going to cause Hibbett to shallow up, and Forster goes back into gear. It was just not quite the right order of operations there, I think, to be fast through turn 1.
Yeah, Hibbett, I think, almost got squeezed out of line by Forster making that move. He kind of went to the inside just because Forster just poked his nose. Hello.
Piatek going for a ride, and he's the next county over halfway to Minnesota over there, leaving turn 3. What happened there?
It looked like he was trying to make a pass on Gillen in turn 3.
The outside.
Things went awry.
Yeah, he was pinching Gillen really tight. Gillen was just having none of that. And watch this from high above. They go off in there. I mean, they were side by side. Well, I'll try to get it side by side. Just pinches the 91 a little tight. They get together and they just hook. And for the lead, here comes Rasputo up the inside. And this is for the top spot here. If he can hold this overlap at 6, this will be good.
Yeah, I was going to say turn 6, really tight corner. If you make a move on the inside and throw it in there, you could stick it. He did. New leader, Rasputo. Burkhardt going to try to see if he can get it back here out of turn 7. The run to turn 8. He's just going to stick in behind, a little bit of a look to the left. And not going to make a move, but a bump from the back of Hibbett.
Yeah, and I think Rasputo was willing to give Burkhardt the inside for turn 8 because 9 and 10 are both right-handers, and so is the King. So if you got someone that wants your left into 8 and they don't think they're going to clear you, let them have it, right? Because they're just going to lose it again, and maybe it'll open the door for someone else to sneak up there and knock it back to 3rd or 4th. But Giancarlo Schooler in this 110 has gone nowhere after starting in 5th, and he's got Trace Hans trying the outside at the kink. That's a tough line to hang on to.
Yeah, Hans trying to make a move on the 23 of Forrester. On the 53 of Hansen was trying to get around him, and now he's got him back as Schooler's trying to take advantage. Up for the lead, though. Side by side again. Burkhardt's going to take the spot back. Hibbett trying to help out the 40. Side by side to Canada corner.
Yeah, with assistance from his teammate, as Rasputo pointed out. aren't you battling him for a championship? But I think for Hibbett, rather, he would probably rather just have to race the 40 than race both the 40 and the 03. So there is a strategy component to this I think is pretty smart.
You know, you usually say the NASCAR races on the super speedway like a game of chess. You can kind of apply that logic to here because they're effectively racing in a pack and using straightaways as a car is wiped out there. I think that's out of Canada Corner. Was that
Evan Hemetman? Yep, and Joshua Soto also.
Oh,
they just get hooked together and into the tires. Big hits for both of those cars.
Man, we've seen some really good testing of the new damage model for these cars. Heavy collision there for both of them.
Big hits there. They just we've been tracked out a little too far. Soto was already on the rumble strips with nowhere to go, and
contact between Rasputin and Hibbett as he was trying to make a move around the outside, running in the grass. He's still side by side.
Hibbett didn't lift, and he's going to tuck in. Well, he tried to tuck in behind Rasputin, but kind of ran out of road there, didn't he? And watch out, Burkhardt. He's half a second clear already. You cannot let Burkhardt break the draft. He'll be gone.
Yeah, because Hibbett had to back out of that. Otherwise, he would have been tracking out and trying to break in the grass. That's usually a recipe for disaster. As this could be a recipe for disaster. Door-banging down the back straightaway here.
Ping pong, and Andrew Gillen's on the far right of that. So is the Piatek 62, and he's going to come over to cover the inside. What a battle here into turn 5. Watch out, though. Wan Shi Lin right on the nose of Trace Hance. Hance got the short end of that for sure. He drops a few spots.
And make it out in one piece for Piatek. He's trying to defend every single lane. He's still held on to 6th. And they're still side by side as Lin trying to see if he can execute over Gillen. Gillen still not giving up. Just got about a fender into turn 7. Going to try to work up the inside and get her on.
Still side by side here. And who's going to clear the other? Again, the inside at 8 I don't think does a lot for you unless you can clear the driver to your outside. He's going to turn in quick. Almost clear the 91, but I think Gillen's going to hold it. No, he doesn't hold the overlap. You see the smile there on Wan Shi's face.
He made him clear. He made himself clear.
And Andrew Gillen almost got turned off the nose of Hance.
Yeah, we're getting close, nose to tail. The 91 of Gillen trying to hook that car around the carousel, now approaching the kink. And they've lost a little bit of a gap up to Piatek up the road. They're going to have to try to work to get that back, otherwise they're going to lose a shot at potentially getting a win.
Here comes Forster in the 23, slow start, but finding his legs now up to 2nd place in that 23 and through into P2.
Hibbett was trying to use the slipstream to make a move on Rasputin, but just not enough track left to make a move heading through Canada Corner. But the top 4 have kind of separated out from everyone else, started leaving Giancarlo Schooler behind.
And critically, they've made up a few tenths on Burkhardt, so he's not able to sprint away. If you give him 7 or 8 tenths, he's gone. But they only gave him about 5 or 6, and that was just enough to start making inroads again. I don't think they want to make that mistake of giving him his own racetrack effectively. Now up the front straightaway, nose to tail.
Nose to tail, they will go. Do we see another move down this straightaway as they're all trying to kind of line up together? Do they want to? They have a choice to make these 4. Do they try to work together a little bit, separate that gap between themselves and Giancarlo Schooler, or do they try to make a move on each other? Oh, there's the answer. Yeah. There's a move from Forster to the outside.
Yeah, 2 are cooperative, 2 are not, and I don't think any of them are going to. You're not going to get all 4 of them to do anything together. And look at Rasputin. He's going to pop to the inside of Forster now. And Hibbett would just like to rejoin his teammate, but he's got 2 drivers that are not a part of this fight or his team that are kind of in between here. Watch the 0-3. That was tight.
A move by Hibbett to the inside of Forster, and they're now side by side down the back straightaway. And see Hibbett giving a push to Rasputin, trying to catch up to Burkhardt.
Wan Shi Lin doing it in the grass on the back straightaway. That was odd. All right, 2 by 2. 2 by 2 down to 5.
Yeah, someone's going to break early here.
Look at Rasputin carrying great speed on the outside. He's going to run all the way to the runoff, and they're still mirror to mirror climbing the hill to 6.
Try to carry as much speed as possible through turn 5. Not quite clear. Here comes Burkhardt back up the inside in turn 6. You just cannot make that outside really work in turn 6, but there's still the overlap. He can't quite clear him, Burkhardt, and here comes Rasputin still back on the attack.
If he can keep the overlap, though, into turn 8 on the outside, he would have a great opportunity to take the lead away, but he cannot do that. Burkhardt shuts the door, and Hibbett slots ahead of Forster for 3rd.
And with all this battling, that's allowed Giancarlo Schooler and Olivier Piatek to catch back up, and now it's a 6-car battle for the lead.
Yeah, this is fantastic stuff, and we're coming to 2 laps to go next time by. So the clock is ticking here. 6 laps nearly complete, just over 2 to go. There's Olivier Piatek, who is really, he could be a catalyst to some very exciting reactions here in the next couple of moments. He's got plenty of aggression to go around, and I think the best is yet to come here for these front 6.
Forster looking up the left of Hibbett. Hibbett gonna kind of look up the inside of Rasputo. Didn't look like he was trying to make a move there, just slot himself in line in 3rd.
Watch Schooler and Piatek, they're side by side. Not a lot of cooperation happening between those two.
Still side by side for both of them through turns 13 and now 14.
And you really want to get single file through 14. Going side by side through there will absolutely be catastrophic to your lap times. Now Burkhardt cheats over to the right. 2 laps to go here at Road America. And now it becomes a defense operation.
He's constantly looking in his mirror, seeing where everyone else is going to go.
Rasputo's going to get punted like a football here in a second from Captain Hibbett, just shoving him blindly ahead until they get to the next braking zone. Ooh, big lunge.
Whoa!
And Forster on the outside, 3 abreast behind him for 2nd.
Couldn't almost see him there from the camera. Look at him. He hit there to the last minute. It was the last second dive for him. Didn't quite work out. Piatek actually on his back bumper trying to make a move.
Hibbett now 2nd. At the right time, I think, as well.
Oh, Hibbett threw it in there a little bit too hard into turn 3. It's going to allow Rasputo to get to his back bumper, but now they're going to get hooked up and try to catch that 40 back again.
Half a second clear is Burkhardt over Hibbett. Everyone aligns behind the 132, but here comes Rasputo. Don't battle for this more than a corner, guys, because
he's trying to block.
Oh, that 40 is going to drive away. Big lunge there to the inside from Rasputo, but he's going to get cleared, I think, in the braking zone unless he can outbrake him, and he can't.
Yeah, I think it looked like Rasputo was trying to block a charge from Forster, making a move up the inside, so pulled out a line to do so. Now taking a look at Giancarlo Schooler, got the move back on Piatek, back for 5th.
What a great battle this has been up here towards the front, but it has ended in tears before. We've seen the leaders crash in the last lap here at Road America in the past. And now, just a lap and a half to go into turn 8. Half a second between Burkhardt and Hibbett, the teammates fighting for the title.
And Hibbett's got to make a decision here if he wants to be leading into turn 1 or if he wants to be on the attack for the final lap. I don't know if he's got enough of if he can make enough of a run here on the back of Burkhardt. He's got a little bit of a gap, about 0.5 of a second that he has to make up here.
I think he's not going to get there by the time we get to 14, but maybe into 1 he'll have a run. I just don't know if it's the right time to take it. I think on the back side of the track is really where things are going to accelerate, and he's going to have a couple drivers behind him that want to move forward as well. But Hibbett hasn't shown a lot of cooperation with Rasputo and Forster at all, so I don't think they're going to be inclined to help him. They might just try to figure out how to go by.
I think Hibbett might have to. I think he's purposely actually might be laying back a little bit more, trying to keep this gap going. That way when he needs to execute, he can get a lot of overspeed by making up towards the end of the straightaway. Question is it going to be at the end of turn 1 or the end of turn 5? And he can't wait on long because, like you said, Rasputo and Forster, they're waiting in the wings. They're not going to wait around for him to make a move. They want to make their own moves here as we head up the hill for the white flag.
Yeah, 0.4 of a second between Burkhardt and Hibbett. It will be the last lap in race 1 here around Road America. Watch Forster and Rasputo, though. Forster's not going to push. I thought he was. He's going to trap Rasputo behind Hibbett. But as soon as Rasputo gives Hibbett a shove, it should re-clear him again. It doesn't, though. Forster's got a great run to the outside, and this battle for 3rd is going to hinder all 3 of these cars.
Yeah. Oh! Whoa, contact!
That was very dicey. Forster slid his way ahead of Rasputo, but Hibbett still 0.4 back from Morgan Burkhardt.
Yeah, I was going to say that was interesting to see Forster use the side draft to kind of get around Rasputo and slot himself between them in turn 1. Now out of turn 3, here comes Hibbett trying to get a run on the back straightaway towards Morgan Burkhardt, and you can bet that beats Forster. He's not going to wait around. He wants to make a move as well.
Yeah, the gap is coming down, but it's very slight, just a couple thousandths every few seconds. So he's not going to get there by 5. This is going to take the entire lap to get back there, and that's without any attacks from those behind. Forster's going to pop out of line. This is going to doom Hibbett here into turn 5, but doesn't get along sides. That might allow Camden to continue his run forward, but it costs him 0.1 or 2 of a second.
Yeah, you know, I'm looking at the damage to the front of Hibbett's car. I'm really wondering, you know, you talked about the damage affecting the cars. I'm kind of wondering why he's not been able to catch back up to Morgan Burkhardt. That might be the source of his issues, because that damage might be keeping him from getting that last bit of miles per hour in the slipstream to get past.
Yeah, I mean, it's not catastrophic, but that issue goes away when you're tucked right up underneath the car ahead of you. And that was a really nice corner for Hibbett, though. He was 0.6 back in the braking. Now he's 0.4 back. He is within striking distance here if he could get a nice run leaving the carousel. 0.4, 3.5, heading towards the king.
I think he might have been maybe saving up for this one last opportunity. It's going to essentially be the last good opportunity he has heading down the Canada corner. What's Burkhardt got, though? I'm sure he's got something planned.
Well, I think it might be 14, right? He's going to get there by Canada, but not far enough along to do much with it. Forster's with him here, 0.2, and it's going to close the rest in the braking zone here. Forster behind him has got a big run coming, but nowhere to go with it. Hibbett closes. 3 corners left here at Road America.
Giancarlo Schuler missed the corner. He's going to lose 1-2 spots here as Rice-Puto and Piata get on by. Meanwhile, up for the lead. Can Hibbett make any sort of move here? He's got one shot here to turn 14.
Well, he's going to either do it on entry or try to do it on exit. He's going to try to jam it down here in 14, and he does. Side by side for the lead, and Forster's going to line them both up. Are we going to be 3 wide here coming to the stripe? Here we go, climbing the hill at Road America. The 2 teammates battling for the title, and Forster coming up the inside. 3 wide to the checkered flag. Who gets here first? Burkhardt trying to hold him off. Checkered waving, they touch, they slide. Who gets there? That was unbelievable. And I think Burkhardt got him by 11 thousandths of a second.
Wow, 33,000 separating the top 3 there. What a photo finish there. Whew.
That was unbelievable. Camden P3, Morgan P1. That will close the gap in the championship. But more importantly, how about that? I don't think I've ever seen a closer finish in sports cars at Road America. I mean, look at that. I mean, just unbelievable. They were tangled together with Camden in the middle.
Yeah, what a...
I mean, that is crazy close. Unbelievable finish there, and that's only one of 2 that we get to do tonight.
Yeah, fantastic job by these guys taking a look at, again, that run up the hill. Horse did a great job trying to make a move. He figured he had to do something now. Coming out of turn 14, try to get the slipstream off of Beans Forster, and Burkhardt just trying to keep his foot in it, and then they made contact here as well. That really changed things up.
I think had he pulled to the right and avoided making contact with Camden, he might have had it.
Yeah, I think that slowed him down a little bit. Yeah, it lost him some momentum.
Great battle between those, and there wasn't anything else quite that close behind him. 11 thousandths of a second for the win. That was cool, and that was the end of the first race. And man, that's a great way to start the night. We've got another one to go here, Finian, in just a few minutes' time. But if this race is anything to go by, it's going to be tight. But Morgan Burkhardt critically wins that race by more than 1 spot over Camden Hibbett. That's going to close the title fight right up to almost nothing.
Yeah, I was going to say that is definitely going to make things a lot more interesting there, as Hibbett was not able to defend enough to keep him from getting the victory. There is still race 2, though, and I'm sure he's going to be marked that and trying to have another attempt to keep Burkhardt at bay and keep him from making up that point gap.
Well, a couple minutes until we go back racing here from Road America for our second race of the evening. One of our new partners this season is Farah. They do racing down at Homestead Miami Speedway. They stream them live with the Driver's Eye Live group, and they have some great racing programs going on. Greg Creamer announces it. Of course, he announces this typically as well, but as we step away for a few minutes to get prepped for race number 2 of the evening, here's all about Farah.
Welcome to Homestead Miami Speedway to the second round of the new Farah USA Championship Series. And this series is taking it to a brand new level. Whatever kind of racing you might be interested in terms of road racing, Farah provides it. Do you like Formula car racing? Well, we have Formula Farah. That's for the young guns coming out of karting that might well become the future in a few years of open wheel racing in the United States, maybe even globally. a massive field of GT cars. Racing is absolutely fabulous. And here's the start for the GT cars. And a good field of prototypes as well. And if you like multi-class sports car racing where it is non-stop passing, Bar is doing it. The prototypes have picked up the green. We are racing. Over 30 Pro Spec Miatas here for this second round of 2024. We're green, we're flying, Pro Spec Miata, very even start. If you want to come and watch it, you can get in free. That's FARA, the Formula and Auto Racing Association. To many, it's the Fans Auto Racing Association.
And welcome back to America's National Park of Speed at Road America. Kyle Heyer joined by Finney and DeCuna in Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, at least virtually here in iRacing. This is the Full Send Sim Spec Miata series here from Road America. The penultimate round of the championship, we head back down to effectively a home track in Sebring, Florida next week for the finale of 2024 Season 2. And Finney, race 1 here at Road America was a thriller. What an exciting finish coming up to the checkered flag, and it was 2 and 3 wide and drivers battling for position. This was the finish we just saw in race 1, and race 2 coming up here is going to be more of the same.
Yeah, I was going to say, cannot wait. I'm not too surprised because anytime we come to Road America, this track usually puts on its performance, whether or not it's IndyCar, GT3, any car you can throw at it, usually puts on a fantastic show. And we saw something great there, and I expect quite a lot, I guess, after that finish for race number 2.
Yeah, and have a look at the weather. It's cooling. Well, I guess the air temp has warmed up. The track temp has come up over 100 degrees, but the humidity continues to drop. 83% now. We were in 97 when we started the evening, so the conditions are changing, which is a little bit of a variable for these drivers, even in a 20-minute race.
Yeah, I was going to say decent increase to the track temperature, and it only looks like it's going to increase as the air is getting a little bit hotter as we head into the afternoon in sim. But like you mentioned, the humidity constantly coming down as well, a slight factor. Still wind mostly heading to the north, now northwest, still 14-mile-an-hour breeze though, and I think it definitely held a huge factor as far as a lot of these drivers making some moves here. And a little bit of a warm-up here for these drivers to get accustomed to the track, take a little bit of a break, especially after the intense action we saw in race number 1.
Well, we're going to get rolling here in just a couple moments as the warm-up ticks down to nothing and we get set for our second and final race here of the evening. This is going to be a lot of fun, and I think one of the things we learned is the aggression level is extremely high, as we saw in the very final lap. Now, what did those drivers learn? They learned that if you make contact coming to the stripe, you're probably not going to win unless your name was Morgan Burkhardt and you were already out front anyway. So I think coming to the stripe, there'll probably be a 3-wide scenario again where that third driver is just trying to get away as much as possible. But it's hard. That front straightaway is pretty narrow.
Yeah, it is really narrow, and that's the tricky part, especially we saw in turn 1 on lap 1, where we ended up having an incident with drivers nearly 4 wide. One driver getting punted off, and again, that lack of runoff that we have in this version of Road America really catching people out, end up causing an incident. I'm sure drivers are glad there's runoff in turn 5. They've been using that quite a bit.
Yeah, going back to the very beginning of race number 1, this was the tail end of the crash that we saw, but it was all down to what happened down here at turn 1. The 77 of Joshua Soto was in the middle here, and all of a sudden Deacon Greenfield goes wide. We get 4 abreast, and watch the Cam Eben car gets tripped up sideways up into the gravel and up and over. That's why Road America has paved that area now, and it's all asphalt. But here in iRacing, it is gravel and grass. You cannot afford to have it off in that part of the racetrack.
And almost everyone on the grid ready to go, and going with the finishing order from race number 1. And for Hibbett, it ended up finishing in third. Not the ideal scenario. Still a decent finish, but again, more points for Morgan Burkhardt to chip away at his championship lead.
It was only 9 coming into this round, so if Morgan beats him in both races, they're going to either be tied or have Burkhardt have a slight advantage going into Sebring, which is not what Hibbett needs, because Burkhardt's record at Sebring has been amazing. And not that Hibbett's has not, but in the head-to-head matchups, it's been Burkhardt over Hibbett more times than not, so you don't want to put yourself into a tricky area. So pace lap time. Let's have a look at does our starting grid work in heats? It does not. I was wondering about that. I go to this ticker on the side, and it's Morgan Burkhardt and Beans Forster that are going to line up on that front row. Then Camden Hibbett and Nicholas Rice-Budo. Then Piatek and Gilliland in row number 3. Schooler, Lynn in row 4. Trace Hansen, Dean Dibdahl, row 5. And Court Schmidt had a nice drive in race 1 up to 11th place.
Yeah, really solid climb for him. Yeah, we didn't really get a chance to cover it because the racing up near the front was so intense, but just kind of snuck his way up there. And now it's a solid starting spot here for race number 2.
Weather is looking good for virtual Wisconsin, I suppose, especially in the middle of July. But the weather conditions when we first loaded in, we saw all that fog and stuff. That was not typical. We haven't really seen weather that extreme in this championship. Again, we can't have rain just yet, but it's been typically very sunny and midday for almost every round, so to have the fog was a little bit of a welcome sight. So Forster is going to start on the outside of the front row. This time he doesn't have the jump finish. He got swallowed up and finished the first lap basically 4th, and took him the entire race to have a shot at the lead again. What can you do different this time on driver's left?
I think, just try to, I think the big thing is just nailing the start. I think that's what really caught him out off guard. Just getting that jump, getting going as soon as possible. As a couple cars starting on pit lane.
Yeah, I'm surprised by this. Dylan Lee and then Charles Boley. Here, I don't know that I love that idea. Pit lane's really long here, and turn 1, you can generally find your way around it.
Yeah, it's not like in real life where you can stack up at the end of pit lane. You have to leave from your pit stall to the end of pit lane as everyone's already halfway through the racetrack at that point.
Yeah, it's less fun. Not that starting from pit lane's ever a lot of fun, but I would take my chances out on the racetrack, right?
Yeah, I definitely would. Just kind of lay off the back and watch for the stack up in turn 1. I guess it's going to be interesting to see how these guys are going to tackle the start. We saw a very chaotic start in the last race with several rows 3 wide into turn 1. If we see it calmer, I would hope so, because the last time we were there, we saw a car flip end over end.
Well, we were doing some Daytona duels last night, and you told me that one race is usually pretty calm and the other one's usually pretty chaotic. I wonder if that applies to heat racing MX-5s.
Well, it's up to the drivers to decide that, really. It's out of our hands.
If I had to guess, I'd get my binoculars out for turn 1. Well, the 2024 make model is about to peer down pit lane and clear the racetrack for the MX-5s in tow. Doubled up and about 2 dozen deep again, minus Boley and Lee. We'll start from the pit lane. Full Send Sim Spec Miata Series will next race next Tuesday at Sebring on the full course. We were there earlier this season, but on the short course. And we will conclude our championship in 1 week's time. But to set our championship battle up, it is Morgan Burkhardt versus Camden Hibbett. They start 1st and 3rd in line, nose to tail. Here we go from Road America, the National Park of Speed. We're green again.
And this time it seems to be, at least as they start off, a little bit more of an orderly start. 2 by 2 by 2 they will go. I see one driver swerving. I believe that is Schooler, yeah, trying to see if he can make a move. And side by side they will go into turn 1. It looks like Burkhardt will win out on the 23 of Forster and get first place.
And it's pretty critical not to have an incident in turn 1, because part of the new rule changes as of late, where if a driver causes an incident in turn 1 on lap 1, they will have to start at the tail of the field until they attend a Racecraft Academy session run by Full Send Sim. So they are punishing you for making a mistake that takes out other drivers in the early moments of a race, which I personally am a fan of. Until you've got the accountability to continue, you have to learn what you did wrong, and so everyone can race clean, fair, and green. Into turn 5 for the first time, and looking good here.
All run there, saw a big dive from the 99 of Dibdal as he's trying to make a move up the inside.
Piatek in the 62, the green car, slots ahead of Giancarlo Schooler, and he hasn't gained up any spots, but certainly didn't give one up there either. And a very clean and orderly first 6 corners, I'd have to say, compared to last time. Cam Evan, who spent some time in the scenery at the exit of turn 1, has gotten that car put back on 4 wheels and up to 15th already after starting 21st.
I think he's happy he has a chance to actually get in a race this time, at least so far here in race number 2. Gonna make a move, looking side by side at the moment. And he's got Deacon Greenfield, who's another car that's also taking out on lap 1, turn 1 in race number 1. And he's gonna be able to slot himself in 15th.
Oh, out front, Beans Forster has got a run here on Burkhardt, and he's not waiting for it. Side by side, down towards Canada corner. And Forster's got the preferred line here. This is a tricky braking zone here. Corner's very flat. Forster is almost through, and he is almost clear. Burkhardt drives up alongside him, and Rice Budo is going to give Forster a shot.
Yeah, Rice Budo had a huge amount of speed heading down towards Canada corner last time by, and wasn't quite able to make the move there, and actually got passed by Hibbett as Greg Ginsburg had some trouble in Canada corner. His car is heavily damaged.
Well, here we go. Camden Hibbett's going to take him 3 wide. Are we watching the finish of the race again? Up the front straightaway. Forster in the middle, Burkhardt on the left, Hibbett on the right, and Rice Budo and Piatek trying to figure out which line they should take to go quick. Forster drops in behind Burkhardt and leaves Camden Hibbett kind of sucker hold there on the middle.
Yeah, but Hibbett trying to use the side draft to slow both of them down. And there you see Rasputin, he's just going to fall in line, as well as Piatek, as they're all kind of heading into turn 1.
That's dicey.
Hibbett throwing it in there, trying to get the car to rotate. Is just about side by side with Forster, as Rasputin gives him a little bit of a tap from behind.
Burkhardt goes to cover, center track, nice defensive driving there, and Piatek has joined the party in that green 62. Up onto the back straightaway, and here comes that chess match you were talking about.
Yeah, I mean, they're 2x2s. Which lane do you pick? Which lane do you want to go with? Forster's going to have a little bit more of an open run here, as they're both himself and Hibbett are catching up to Burkhardt. Burkhardt trying to defend both lanes.
And Giancarlo Schooler watching all of it out the windshield. A little conservative entry here into 5 as he tries to figure out which lane is going to go where. Hibbett's way out wide.
That's because Hibbett was the opposite of conservative. He threw it into the corner, hoping it would stick.
Rich Green in the background, and for the lead, look at this.
Yeah, Burkhardt's going to get it in turn 6. I was going to say Hibbett had a solid run out of turn 5, but couldn't execute. And that inside, we've seen very much the preferred line in turn 6.
Giancarlo Schooler, jinking left, jinking right. Trying to sneak up on Rice Budo, but Rice Budo didn't bite. Go back and see what happened to Greg Ginsburg in this number 7. Looks like he just kind of ran off all on his own, and the gravel didn't slow the car down enough. Bam, into the wall. Breaks the left front suspension. He is back out on course after a lengthy stop in pit lane. That'll be a lonely drive, though, from here on out.
Oh, yeah, he's pretty much in the middle of no man's land. He's actually going through turns 2 and 3 right now, so he's very far from everyone else as they're working their way through the kink. Nose to tail, but not for long. Here comes Kevin Hibbett. Big run. Going to look to the left-hand side of the track, making a move on Morgan Burkhardt.
Forster watching from 3rd. Hibbett's got a championship on the line. Is there a little touch there, perhaps, into Canada corner? Still side by side. Piatek and Rice Budo for 4th, and Forster's in the middle here.
And here they go side by side. Whoa, some contact throwing Burkhardt off the line. That's one way to secure the spot. Hibbett will gain the lead. Burkhardt back to 2nd. Forster trying to look around the outside into the final corner. Oh, and a hit from behind.
It's getting really tense back here. A lot of cars packed in on top of each other. Wanshi Lin's 3 wide with the Dean Dibdal car in the middle there.
It very much might be. I can't quite tell from there.
Too many cars in one spot. Across the start-finish line, Hibbett leads this lap with a push from Forster.
Off they will go into turn 1. Is there going to be enough of a push to Hibbett? from Forster, and he's going to try to throw it in there. Burkhardt trying to defend on that outside. We've seen that work well for most drivers on the fence. Semi-decent run for him.
That second group with Hansen dipped all side by side. They're making me nervous too. Still side by side into 3. And Forster's just got to pick a line and roll with it. He's going to choose that 132. But look at the run. Burkhardt just gets through his shifts so crisp that he is able to out-accelerate even cars that are pushing. And Camden Hibbett's internet is not handling this very well, is it?
No, it's not. And this is probably the worst time you can have internet issues at a time like this. It's through the trees. There is the drivers heading to turn 5. Hibbett with a big run with Beans Forster in behind. Burkhardt trying to see if he can make some sort of move to the inside in turn 5. Hibbett goes wide. Burkhardt back on the attack.
Well, side by side in the background there, Josh Soto. Remember, he was running 4th, and the standings crash. Big hit for Court Schmidt. He's in the wall. Actually, it's Cam Evan as well. 2 cars involved in the collision, and Evan's car is out.
It looked like Court Schmidt ran wide in turn 5, came back across the track into Eben, and ended up both wiping out.
Yeah, so he's just way out wide here on the rumbles and tried to rejoin and tangles there with Eben. Yeah, once you depart the racetrack, you're not necessarily guaranteed the ability just to pull back on, but if I'm Eben in that scenario, you kind of, I mean, you know that driver's going to want to get back on, and though you're not required to give them room to do so, it would probably be easier to do that than to end up in the fence. But either way, both cars are out, and here comes Hibbett again trying to get the lead back from Morgan Burkhardt. Squeezed against the grass on the right, and braking duel into, wow, look at Schooler, way late on the brakes on Ray Sputo into 12, but he's got it.
Yeah, he's able to make it stick, uses the extra curbing on the exit to execute the move, and still not done yet. Trace Hans trying to make a move on Ray Sputo through the final few corners, side by side with him, and is up for the lead. Beans Forster trying to defend from Hibbett, making a dive in turn 14.
Watch Piatek, he's got any lane he can choose here. Camden did not get a very good run there. Beans was able to carry just a bit more speed as he wrapped that outside, and he's going to slot ahead of Hibbett. Piatek's going to get a draft and maybe a push. Schooler elects not to give him a shove.
Make a move looking up to the left-hand side of the track. Got to kind of benched in here. He's got the wall to deal with to the right, and now the 110 of Schooler in front of him. Ooh, it's, man, Schooler's been making it complete dives into turn 1, trying to throw that car in there and make some moves. Couldn't quite make it on him at that time.
Front 6 or 7, actually make that 8 are all together, and it's not too far back to find Juan Shilin and Andrew Gilliland, who have been kind of flanking each other all evening long. Piatek's going for another ride there through the grass. He's going to owe the landscaper some money for that field he's been mowing.
I think there's a couple guys that made quite a few excursions into the grass this race.
Rivaling Tony Kanaan at Indy a couple years ago. Hibbett chasing Forster. Lifts. Forster does not. Outside of 5. That's a bold strategy.
And there's Hibbett trying to make a big move to the inside as both of them are compromised on the exit. He's going to meet to the inside of Forster into turn 6. He actually is going to back out of it. That's going to allow Schooler trying to make a move. Schooler gets cut off.
Yeah, he wanted to get back in line here because he knows if they ran the 6, 7, 8 sequence side by side, it'd give Burkhardt too big of an advantage. That was big picture thinking there for Camden Hibbett. It's been big picture thinking most of the night. Although he has not been able to bury that championship rival in the form of his teammate out in front. And if he were to leave this race or this round with 2 losses to his teammate, I think there's some missed opportunities there. He had the opportunity to bury him once, and he didn't do that. Clatterbuck has been off course here at turn 8.
Yeah, it's in contact with the 61 of Guetta.
There's too many cars going. I think Guetta was leaving the inside open for another car that he thought might go down there. And I don't think Clatterbuck was planning on them being 3 wide, so it just kind of got a little awkward there. Here comes Forster now, drivers left of Burkhardt into Canada corner.
Had a decent run, decided to do something with it. And Schooler also going to do something with a move to the inside of Hibbett into Canada corner. Whoa, as Bean Forster goes out wide, trying to make it stick, but Burkhardt's going to re-secure that lead.
This is getting exciting now, isn't it? We've still got about half the race left to go, 9 minutes and 20 seconds. We'll be finishing lap 4 of 8 this time by. And they've got a handful of cars bunched up there. Hibbett dropped it left rear in the grass. That destabilized him for a moment, enough to let Schooler by for third.
Yeah, and Schooler was not able to quite clear, although as everyone migrates to the right-hand side of the track, at least the leaders, Schooler is going to be able to get a slipstream. Hibbett has to surrender third place.
Up the straightaway here. Forster's going to pull left, not any assistance, but a big run out of 14.
Here they go side by side. Burkhardt on the inside, Forster on the outside. The outside looks pretty good for the most part, but Forster not able to get the run or the exit he needed.
Piatek was very aggressive into one, got a couple spots back to P5. Forster's going to get cleared, but crosses over Morgan Burkhardt. Forster has really shown up to battle here today. He has not been lingering. He is full on in competition mode right now.
Oh, three wide into turn 5, or heading towards turn 5. As Hibbett's going to go to the right side, Schooler's going to go on the left and give Burkhardt a push, and someone's probably going to have to back out of this.
Giancarlo Schooler is teammates with Burkhardt and Hibbett. PRG bouncing over the curbs there at the inside of 5, and now Giancarlo Schooler is squarely centered in this mix up front.
Yeah, Zoo going to make a little bit of contact with Forster as they head to turn 6. A checkup as well from Hibbett. Ooh, in contact with Schooler is going to push the 23 wide. He's back on the track. They're going to be side by side into turn 7 here.
Yeah, and I don't think that was work out great for either of them here. Top 2 trying to drive away. Schooler and Forster still door to door. I think Forster would like to just concede this and reorganize, but Piatek's not going to let him do that.
No, he's not. Piatek actually making a move now to the left-hand side of Forster. He's been completely swamped in this middle part of the track. Actually, Piatek's going to surrender, or Rasputin going to go back up to 5th, as there's now a top 2 breakaway.
That's exactly what Hibbett wants to do. He would love to just shove Morgan Burkhardt and get them well clear of any assault from Schooler, Forster, or otherwise. If they can make it a 1v1 battle, Hibbett knows exactly what strings to pull to land first in a couple laps time, but they have to get away from this next pack, and while they're side by side, it's a good time to do it.
Yeah, especially as they're battling it's into Canada corner into these braking zones. It's going to really compromise their exit. That's where they're going to be gaining on them, as Giancarlo Schooler is through to 3rd. Rasputin means Forster are going to be fighting it out now for 4th.
Yeah, the gap to Schooler is 1 second. It's not quite clear of the draft, but it is almost clear. And I think Meatman has just had a problem down in Canada corner. This one's been the challenging one today. He might have had some assistance from Rich Green, who did not get the car slowed down. And bam, they went for a ride into the tire wall, and there goes the engine.
Yeah, Rich Green was fighting with Guetta and just misses breaking point in a side-by-side battle, and unfortunately that was the result. Meanwhile, Hibbett giving a shove to Burkhardt, trying to push him away. 1.1 seconds the gap between 2nd and 3rd.
Forster's pushing Schooler because they see that gap growing. They don't want to let it grow further. And then Piatek on Rasputin here for 5th.
Yeah, Piatek's going to win down on that exchange. Rasputin defending from Trace Hans. He's trying to make some moves into turn 3.
Joshua Soto, by the way, remember he was involved in that lap 1, turn 1 collision in race 1. Started 22nd. He has now broken the top 10.
Wow, solid job, and he might not be done yet. Still got 5 minutes remaining and a bunch of cars ahead of him, so he's going to be trying to make some moves to gain as many points as possible.
So Hibbett and Burkhardt are trying to pull away, but they are not doing so. Schooler and Forster, and see now Hibbett sees that trailing group coming, and this is the time and opportunity to sneak by his teammate. He's going to run him out to the gravel, and Hibbett's through to the lead, but not clear. And he's going to let him back by.
Yeah, just not on the right side of the track to make a move.
He's
going to fall back in line.
It immediately closes that gap back up to 3rd and beyond. It's a bit of a strategic error there by Hibbett. Had he cleared Burkhardt, he would have been in a good spot, but he knew he couldn't just run his teammate right off course without any repercussions. They have battled door to door before, and it has ended in, I wouldn't call it tears, but I'm sure they were frustrated at each other a couple times last season. They raced each other so hard because they're that good. They're up in the front all the time battling for race wins.
Yeah, it's really just an exchange of really who's going to win the race. I think between these two, it's been so dominant for both of these drivers, clearly why they're at the top of the standings. In fact, it's actually coming into this round, it was tied at 7 wins apiece for both of them. And the only other drivers to win a race this season, Ben Forster, Beans Forster, and Joshua Soto.
Yeah, they've been pretty dominant. But it's not the one driver show it was in seasons past with Burkhardt being nearly unstoppable. Hibbett has shown.
Whoa!
Look
Schooler,
at this.
big dive for second place.
And he's putting himself in position because we're coming to 2 laps to go, which means about 8 miles of racing. And he wants to be the one to go after Burkhardt.
Thought Hibbett sleeping there as he was able to get into second place. I don't even think really Hibbett thought he was going to make a move.
Yeah, Hibbett smiling here. He's having fun, but big picture racing. Championship on the line here. And Schooler's off course. It's going to kill his run. And now does Hibbett and Beans, do they cooperate with this 110?
They're going to have to for a little bit. Burkhardt got to stretch out a lead. It's about 0.5 of a second. They're going to need to catch back up. They want any shot at catching him on the last lap.
Got a big head of steam coming, though. They do stay put nose to tail. I'm a bit surprised by that, actually. Now Forster comes out of line, but doesn't have overlap on Schooler.
So it's good for Schooler to go wide, but Beans Forster is going to go very wide in through the gravel. Off the track he will go. Hibbett gets third place back.
And Piatek's back in. The revolving doors of the top 5 here in Spec Miata. This is what it's all about.
Been a revolving door for everything except the lead, it seems. Burkhardt somehow gets the lead back some way or the other. It's about a turn or 2 later.
He's led all but 1 lap in this. Actually, has he led all the laps? I thought Camden led 1. No, but that was last race, I think.
Yeah, I think he might have led 1 or 2, but not too many.
Race Hans under fire from Spudo. Spudo's fallen back a bit.
Yeah, he fell back into traffic, and they've been duking and diving each other back here. So he's been trying to kind of get out of the weeds. And he's just now cleared it and back up to 6th. And I think he's going to try to see if he can push as hard as he can to try to get up to the top 5 to have some sort of fight near the end for those top few spots.
There's nothing more frustrating than getting caught in traffic that isn't cooperating. But it's, I mean, they signed up for a race, right? I mean, this is what it's all about. But when you were running up at the front and you know how to get there and no one else around you seems to have the same agenda, that can be a really frustrating experience. Camden Hibbett trying to sneak up the inside of Schooler, and he's going to get there. That's a Miata-sized hole, and Hibbett took it.
I was going to say, if it fits, I sits for Camden Hibbett making a move. But now they're going to be side by side into the kink. This can get dangerous.
It can. They've been able to do this pretty successfully so far tonight, but Schooler right out to the edge of the road. And then Forster, what line do you pick, Mr. Beans? Either?
Yeah, he's kind of been on his own agenda, it seems, trying to make some moves.
Oh, Schooler's in deep, too deep. And Hibbett's going to throttle up and just slide ahead of Schooler. If I was full commit there, any 3 inches shyer, and he would have been in the fence there.
Yeah, Schooler's been sending it quite a bit. Unfortunately, I think sent it a little bit too much. Ended up missing the corner. But here they go into turn 14. Now going to come up the hill. White flag in the air for the final time tonight. Whoop. Oh, hello.
Schooler wide again at 14, going for an off-road ride. Trying to keep that throttle pinned to the floor. Hibbett is in a very familiar place, like he was last race.
I think the big key, though, is that he does not have any damage to the front of that car, so I think the slipstream should be a lot easier for him this time by.
Well, will he wait? Into turn 1.
He
What
will.
about it? Behind him, they're side-by-side. Schooler on defense there from Forster. And it's a 5-car breakaway, so they've got a bit more safety than they did before, perhaps. Camden's going to go wide and maybe set him up for the over-under here. If Schooler doesn't fill the gap to his inside, they touch. Little wiggle there.
Oh, that killed his momentum off the corner. Burkhardt also did a great job. He kind of parked it on the apex to slow down Hibbett, prevent him from getting a decent run, and Hibbett's definitely not catching him this time by. Hibbett's actually really got to start worrying about defense because Schooler and Piatek are not making a run.
Oh, watch that contact there. Piatek's going to go to driver's left. Schooler covers. Piatek pops out to the inside once more. This is good for Hibbett because it'll occupy the 110 for a little while. He's out to the gravel.
It's going to occupy him a lot. He's back on the track, though, and actually going to end up ahead of Piatek.
He spent more time off course than he has on, hasn't he, tonight?
Trying to test the rallycross capabilities of these cars.
Corner worker's nightmare, that guy. But now out of turn 7 and down to 8. Hibbett's closer than he was last time, but I think he's got early braking for Burkhardt. That closed the gap. I wonder if Burkhardt's trying to back him up to driver's right. Hibbett thought he saw a hole there, but he wasn't able to get the Miata down the inside.
I think Burkhardt's realized if he can back him up into the traffic with the other drivers, Hibbett's gonna have to look more in his mirror than out of his windshield. I think that's gonna be the strategy. If he can keep them up at bay, Schooler and Piata can try to make a move, because they're definitely gonna try to make a move down this back straightaway.
Yeah, Burkhardt has said as such. He just tries to make the drivers behind race, and that's how he's been so successful. But Hibbett's going to get alongside before he gets pinned to one side or another by another driver. They're side by side for the race lead. Here comes Schooler. Are we going to be three? We sure will into Canada corner. This is a recipe for tears.
And a big dive for Schooler in the grass. Does he get the car slowed down for the corner? He does. Wow. Hibbett's going to also try to race him. Burkhardt gets pushed out the third.
Still 3 wide through Canada corner, through Bill Mitchell Bend. Camden Hibbett's in a tough spot here. Morgan Burkhardt out to the grass. They're still 3 wide into turn 14. Burkhardt's going to back out of it, trying to build a run onto the front stretch. He's to the inside of Schooler. Hibbett trying to win, and maybe we'll have a reverse finish of what we had in race 1, but Burkhardt's not going to get there.
I think he's got to slow down.
He does, and no one's going to get there. Hibbett, I think, is going to get this one and potentially propel himself to gaining a points advantage on his teammate, and Camden Hibbett wins at Road America.
What a finish. Solid job there. That's a big one, with Burkhardt getting a slowdown as to finish in 5th.
Checkmate in that game for Camden Hibbett. And I think you have to go back to turn 14. That's where I think Burkhardt got himself into trouble. And it's going to be a net positive for Camden, because Burkhardt finished in 5th. Well, Hibbett was in 3rd in race 1. This was just a really aggressive move to try to get. I don't really have a great angle on this here, but
if you go off Piatek, maybe I think you might get a good angle of.
Yeah, let's try that off this nose of the 62. Really late lunge.
Yeah, you see right there, all 4 tires at the inside of that curbing.
And he served it and did a nice job. He could have lost a lot more spots than he did, but that cost him in a big way. And despite his win, I think he's going to lose a couple of points to Camden Hibbett. It was a 9-point differential coming into the night. It's going to be awful close to that leaving. But we will go into Sebring with the championship battle still being hotly contested. All right, now that we've got all that out of the way, let's have a look at our race 2 results, Vinny. And race 2 didn't end in quite the dramatic way that race 1 did, but it was still a great battle.
Yeah, fantastic battle there. Great move by Hibbett to throw it to the inside in Canada corner. And Schooler almost was able to execute there for the win. He made the biggest dive into Canada corner there. I thought he was going to wipe out, but able to keep it strong. Ended up pushing out Burkhardt, who's going to drop a couple spots down the order, but fantastic race from these guys once again.
Yeah, Andrew Gilliland in the top 10. Josh Soto turns a bad race into a good one, 22nd to 10th after being involved in a collision in race 1 that could have completely sidelined his night, but he rebounded fairly nicely. Deacon Greenfield, I think he'll be a little bit disappointed in his 11th. I think qualifying in race 1 would have put him in a better spot, but also had to drive through the field tonight in order to get some spots back. And Court Schmidt, involved in a collision, rejoined the racetrack, but down in 19th. That was a disappointing end for his evening. Greg Ginsburg, we saw, involved in a crash. Hayden Mattis did get out on course, it looks like. I didn't see him sneak out there, but he missed race 1, was able to enter race 2. Cam Evan, what a bad night for the 155 Finney in between the crash in race 1 and the crash in race 2.
Yeah, I couldn't quite catch a break, unfortunately. It's going to probably be a night for him to forget. And it seemed like he might have had some decent speed, but just couldn't get the luck.
Well, your running order was there. Let's talk to Olivier Piatek, who comes home in 3rd in race number 2 and started in 5th because you finished there in race 1, Olivier. A lot of exciting battles ahead of you in race 1, but you come home in race 2 with a podium. Not a bad night, but I know you would have liked perhaps a little bit more.
Yeah, I mean, not our best night. A track like this, when the pack is so big, you can't really pass because if you pull out a line, you get trained. So, I mean, all it was, I just never got a good lap in qualifying. Sort of P9, which, I mean, it's not too far back. It's still in the pack. But, I mean, it's pretty much impossible to pass when it's a 3-wide roadblock in front. So, I was doing my best trying to be smart with my moves. And, I mean, got top 5 race 1, which, I mean, did my best staying stand free. And then race 2, again, I mean, I felt like I could have gone to the front, but I didn't want to go for a crazy haymaker. And you can't really do much when everyone's racing in front of you.
Yeah, it seemed like this racetrack is pretty challenging just because of how chaotic it gets and how much road blocking it gets. How far in advance do you have to plan your moves, or can you even plan them when all the pieces are shuffling around the board so quickly?
It's you plan about half a millisecond before you make the move because it's just so reactive. Because you can't predict whether the guy in front of you is going to brake at the normal braking point. He's going to try and brake really deep or brake really early to try and get a crossover. So you're just kind of reacting to what's going on around you, and it's, again, really hard to plan in advance.
Olivier Piatek in third in race 2 here and fifth in race 1. Not a bad night. Some decent points pick up there for you in the number 62. Appreciate you joining and talking to us.
All right, see ya.
See ya. And let's talk with Giancarlo Schooler, who came home in second in race number 2. And boy, if there was a catalyst to all that chaos, it was Giancarlo Schooler in that race. We were joking, you spent more time off course than on at some corner exits, just keeping your foot to the floor. Take us through that exciting battle there in race 2.
Yeah, it's great being able to race with your friends and have battles like these. Camden, Oliver, Beans, Morgan, just a great group of guys. So, I know the respect goes both ways, and we can have these kind of battles. And I'm not here for points. I haven't ran the full season, but just to have a great race like this was just, so much fun.
Olivier Piatek described this kind of racing as reactive, right? You can't really plan a lot of moves. How much time are you spending looking in your mirror versus looking out the windshield to try to plot and plan?
Yeah, I mean, the goal is always forward, so you try not to look in the mirrors, try to look ahead of you and see what you can do. But like Olivier said, I mean, it's tons of just wheel-to-wheel racing the entire time. You never know what's coming next. So, I think the respect goes a long way. The guy's going to race clean, but at the end of the day, I just happened to get lucky and come away with the P2 there.
Giancarlo Schooler second in race 2 after finishing 7th in the first race. Appreciate your time. Fun to watch.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's chat with Beans Forster, who finished in 4th in race 2, but 2nd in race 1. Beans, pole in race 1. What an epic battle. You fell 4th early in that race, but came back and with a big head of steam, almost had a shot at the win there, and you were kind of right in the middle of a whole bunch of chaos. Take us through that race to the end at race 1, because it was so much fun to watch.
I don't even know if I really know what happened there. I knew I was going to drop back on the start. I was trying to manage my speed up the hill, and then the green flag came out and caught me sleeping. So I knew I was going to drop back a little bit and then just hang out there until see what spots I can kind of pick up and what are kind of handed to me.
Well, we see this 3-wide battle across the finish line in race number 1. Looking back, is there anything that you would have done different? You had this big run coming up here out of turn 14. You take him 3 wide. Was there any way to maybe avoid getting kind of caught up in the collisions there and potentially squeak on through with this as a victory?
Oh, 100%. I should have gave just a couple more inches to Camden, but we're all kind of merging in onto the center of the track there, and I had the run. That little tiny tap catch me sideways a little bit is what killed that last little bit of momentum.
Well, super fun to watch tonight, Beans. Congratulations, 2nd into 4th. Not a terrible night by any stretch as far as the standings are concerned. Your P3 going into Sebring, and we'll see you next week there in Central Florida.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. That was so much fun.
Appreciate you. And Camden Hibbett comes home as the winner of race number 1, or race number 2 rather, but 3rd in race 1, Camden. Very exciting battle in the end of race 1. Coming up the hill, beating, banging, door slamming. That was cool to watch. Race 2, it got pretty creative there at the end, and you just look up in your mirror and there's no one there to battle you to the finish as they all kind of spent the last corner every which way. So congratulations. I think you're going to come out because of Morgan's P5 in race 2. You're going to come out with a slightly larger lead than you did coming in. So your thoughts on the wild racing we saw tonight?
Yeah, it was definitely a convenient finish to the second race there. It was nice not to have to worry about anybody coming up the hill. But no, it was some fun racing. I didn't expect kind of how racy it was, honestly, especially early on in the race. There was, at least in race 2, like the racing early on in the second race was way more aggressive than I was kind of expecting. These cars are so fragile now with the front bumpers. If you push too hard, you're going to hurt the front bumper, and you're kind of screwed after that. You can't really do a whole lot. So I was surprised to see all the bump drafting. I know it's Road America and it's a draft track, but I was surprised to see that much bump drafting. So there was definitely some surprises tonight. But yeah, it was definitely some fun racing.
Well, big picture racing, right? Because we've got the championship round coming next week at Sebring. One of the driver that you're battling is your teammate. As far as the racing tonight, it seemed like you would choose him over other drivers as far as giving assistance or pushing. Is that big picture racing to you, or is that just racing in the moment, just trying to get yourself to the front?
I think it's teammate racing in the moment. I think, I try not to think about the point situation as much. I kind of go into it as I need to do what I can to win and finish top 3, and the points will kind of play out by itself. So like mid-race, I'm going to push Morgan if I have the choice. I'm going to push my teammate. I'm going to try and get PRG 1-2. That's my goal mid-race, and then obviously at the end we're going to go race for the win. But I don't really necessarily, I didn't think a ton tonight about shuffling him back or not helping him because of the point situation. I think the points will kind of play out by itself, and we just need to work together as teammates and give PRG the best finish we can.
Camden Hibbett, 3rd and 1st tonight, and another win to add to the wins column. That'll be your 8th on the season. So congratulations for that, Camden, and we'll see you next week at Sebring.
Thank you, guys. We'll see you next week.
We'll see you. And Morgan Burkhardt adds another exciting finish to the resume. You won race 1, 5th in race 2. You were gearing up to maybe have a run at Camden there in that last corner, and it looked like you picked yourself up a slowdown. This was a high-octane evening. Lots of aggression, lots of reactive driving, as Piatek put it. Take us through your evening, especially that race 1 battle at the end.
Yeah, no, I mean, this one was a lot of fun. My goal from the start was, regardless of where we finish, as long as I finish a spot in front of Camden, I'm happy. And that's really going to be the goal for the rest of the season. But yeah, like you said, it was super aggressive. I had an absolute blast doing it. But race 1, I felt like I had a little bit of an advantage as far as just being in the lead and being able to kind of control the pace and control when and where we were going to fight. And then I knew Camden was going to try and make a move going into the final corner, and I figured that the outside was just going to be better. I was just going to drag him to the line. Did not really notice that Beans was that close, and that 3-wide drag to the line was just insane. And I don't know how we all didn't end up upside down tumbling across the line, but I think that's probably one of the closest, highest octane finishes we've had ever. So yeah, just a lot of iRacing getting sucked together, but we ended up making it work. But that's, watching that back from a different angle is insane. Moving to race 2 was a little bit different. Camden and I were able to get away a little bit, and I was thinking about points, and instead of having it be a one-on-one dice at the end where people were probably going to be able to get to us on the last couple laps, I figured I'd rather make it maybe 5 or 6 cars, so that if you could either win the race or finish 6, which is huge for points. But that ended up biting me in the end. Got to slow down going through the last corner. I saw JC start to turn into the corner, and I reacted a little bit because I didn't want to make contact with him and just cut it ever so slightly too much, and unfortunately got the slowdown. But Camden drove beautifully in the second race. Didn't really put a foot wrong the entire event. So it's gonna be difficult when we get down to Sebring.
Well, I think the points gap is going to be pretty similar. It might be slightly more in favor of Camden after the finishes tonight heading into Sebring. How aggressive do you have to get there to come out on top, trailing Camden there by just a touch?
Well, doing the math, it's 11 points right now. Next week won't be a drop round, so it's points are points. That's what stands. If you have a DNF, you have a DNF. So it's, you obviously have a lot to lose, so you can't just throw haymakers the whole time and wait for something to happen. Game plan is going to be to try and go out and kind of control and make the pack big, make it volatile, see what can happen, and really just protect myself. And it sounds kind of crappy, but any chance that I get to make Camden's life hard, you take it, right? If you can pull someone else instead of him down the back straight, if you can park people in corners and make them fight and maybe have him lose a couple spots, then you do it. It's those kinds of things where you're going to have to start getting a little advanced with the racecraft and making sure that you can stack the deck in your favor. I don't think it's going to be super aggressive, because obviously if you are super aggressive, you're more prone to making a mistake and having a problem. So it's, you have to be in it to win it. So just, I really have to finish in front of him. If I win both races and he finishes second in both races, it comes down to fastest lap points. So we'll see.
Oh, man. That possibility is certainly there with your record at Sebring. Morgan, thanks so much for talking to us. Congratulations on a first and a fifth tonight. And we'll see you in Central Florida next week.
We will see you then. I appreciate it, guys.
See ya. All right, Finian. Wow, what a night. Road America. This place rocks. We know it, but so does Sebring next week. And Sebring has put on some of the best races that we've ever seen in the Full Send Sim Spec Miata series. So I am fully anticipating next week to be a barn burner.
Yeah, actually, unfortunately, I'm going to miss that out, but I would have loved to see what these guys are able to do next week. They've been in such fierce competition this entire season, and it's all going to come down to just one final race, 2 races, at one final track.
Well, that's going to do it for us tonight here for the Full Send Sim Spec Miata series. A big thanks again to Full Send Sims and Cord Schmidt. Of course, practice makes podium. They've got some great sim rigs, turnkey simulators for every application. Check out Full Send Sims. Of course, Final Turn Motorsports, their prep shop, dyno tuning, and Miata transmission building, and owned by Rob Greenwood, and front-running chassis builder, partnered with the best engine builders in the Spec Miata category. 3P Logistics, logistical support for you, your family, and your race car. Of course, Wine Country Motorsport offering those Full Send Sims turnkey rigs we talked about, and your one-stop shop for sim racing gear and Full Send Sims turnkey simulators. And of course, Farah, our new partner here for the season, putting on some spectacular events down at Homestead Miami Speedway where we were last week. Thanks so much for watching, everybody, and we'll see you next time with the season finale from Sebring, Florida next week.